Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. But first, I want to highlight Dynamic Forces real quick. Hop on over to Dynamic Forces. They got great collectibles and comics available for sale, signed books, remarked books, sketches, all that kind of stuff, right? But I do want to point out that right now, they got some really nice exclusive limited edition covers to Stray Dogs Dog Days issue number 1, including this fantastic Evil Dead 2 movie poster homage cover that I absolutely love. You can get signed copies, you can get non-signed copies. Check them all out at dynamicforces.com at the link in the description below or right up here in the video. And of course, remember to use the code Robbie at your cart. You'll save 10%. And we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, Red Room, Trigger Warnings, issue number 1 from Fantagraphics. Written, illustrated, everything done by Ed Piskor. This is a long-awaited return to one of my favorite series from last year. It's gory, it is out there, it is gnarly, it is just gross, but I frickin' love it. It's innovative as well, right? So what Ed Piskor's been doing with Red Room is he's basically been giving us, some would call it torture porn type material, but I think it's a little bit more elevated than that, but maybe that's just me. But he's giving us these self-contained one-shot stories that are all part of this overall narrative, and it's not being told necessarily linearly, but there are certain callbacks to earlier issues of Red Room in the beginning here in Trigger Warnings, and I love this book. Ed's doing this thing where he's got 3 different stories going on each page at each different tier of panels, and they all have 3 different kind of artistic styles being approached to them, including a little bit of color, and I love the color work here. I'm a big fan of Ed Piskor's use of the duotone and the screen tone and even color in this issue. I absolutely love it. Detailed, gritty, textured artwork, a gnarly, out there, not for everyone story, and trying to do something innovative with the art form and just giving us a nice package, a nice quality product, and doing it consistently. Red Room, Trigger Warnings, number 1. That's the pick of the week. Let's jump over to Marvel because we got to launch. It's Punisher, number 1. This is Jason Aaron, Jesus Saez, and a few others. This book was actually pretty good. I liked it. You know, a lot of people were nervous about this because the basic premise of this is that Frank Castle is now working for the Hand. He's got a new symbol. What's up with that? That is totally explained in a totally appropriate way to me in this book. I really liked it. Loved the artwork. Jesus Saez's artwork was absolutely freaking amazing. It is Jesus, right? I love the artwork. I thought it was amazing. There were these great, Jesus Saez. There were these really great double page splashes of just one moment that had moments of impact, and I really liked that. I thought artistically it was great. The story worked very well for me. I love the ending. Super excited to see where this is going to go. We keep this team together in this direction for a while. Could be one of Marvel's best books going. First issue, at least. Very promising. Punisher number 1 out this week. We also got Spider-Gwen, Gwenverse number 1. I don't stick with many Spider-Gwen books going forward after issues 1 or 2, usually. I like the design of the character, but there's just something about the way the stories are told that just doesn't necessarily appeal to me. It will definitely appeal to fans of Spider-Gwen and people that like more of the modern form of Marvel comic book storytelling. I think you'll really like this one. It does have this nice kind of fun energy. It's an interesting enough premise. However, it's just another approach into a multiverse type thing, but now we're doing it with Gwen, we're doing it with Miles and What If. Of course, Spider-Verse is a big thing, so that's what they're capitalizing on it. So if you're a fan of that kind of stuff, I think you'll like the book. Artwork was decent, but it just didn't quite grab me, but typically Spider-Gwen books don't. Then we got Captain Carter. I cannot recommend this one. Didn't really like this one. The artwork was okay at times, not so good at other times, and the story just didn't do anything for me. Captain Carter, obviously, it's Peggy Carter if she became the super soldier, based on that What If comic, which is, of course, based on the idea from that Exiles book by Saladin Ahmed back in a few years ago. I think Javier Rodriguez did the artwork. Anyway, Captain Carter, it was just kind of okay. So it's picking up on her waking up in the modern era, and it's just kind of filled with a lot of, like, stagnant exposition. It doesn't really kind of pick up till towards the end. And even then, it was kind of like too little, too late for me. So Captain Carter's not something that I necessarily liked, so I may not continue on with that. Devil's Reign, Moon Knight. This is a one-shot comic. I was excited to check it out because even though I've not been liking most of the Devil's Reign tie-ins and miniseries, I like Moon Knight, and I like Jed MacKay's take on Moon Knight. So this is Moon Knight in prison because he got captured at the beginning of Devil's Reign. And so this is Moon Knight in prison. This should have been a really cool issue. In fact, the story was really solid. What I did not like was the artwork. I was not a fan of it. It had like a dynamic quality to it, but it didn't fit the grim and gritty nature of the story, right? It was way too bright. The coloring was kind of off. It didn't set a tone that I felt was there in the story, so it lost some of its punch to me. So I was a little disappointed in Devil's Reign Moon Knight. Liked the story, didn't really like the artwork. Devil's Reign number 5 is here with the penultimate issue. Still just very much like Civil War, very much like Dark Reign. So some of the story threads, they're right there. I do love what's being done with Kingpin. He's basically found out that there's been a secret held from him, and what that secret is now causing him to just kind of go off the wall. And I really like the ending of this. It was something that you can kind of start piecing together as you're making it your way through this book. So that being said, it's decent, but it's nothing really like this 5 issues through Devil's Reign, and it just kind of feels like a non-event, and it kind of feels like it's treading on some of the same plot points from things like Dark Reign, from Thunderbolts, but from Dark Reign, from Civil War, right? So Devil's Reign, not quite kicking it for me, but I am liking the work being done with Kingpin in this book. Then we got Thor issue 23. This wraps up the God of Hammer story. Really like the ending here. Some big stuff happened in the last issue that all gets resolved here, and it was a really great, satisfying ending to this story. The artwork by Nick Klein was cool. Matt Wilson's doing some interesting stuff with the coloring because there's a lot of warm colors for everything else, but like the God of Hammers is very blue and cool, so that was interesting to see. I really like Nick Klein's work. It's kind of got a rough edge to it, and the coloring works very interesting to me there. But I like the story. I really like the conclusion to this God of Hammers arc, and I really loved the setup. Like the last pages here, really, I was like, I'm really excited to be reading Thor again, and that's really cool. Donnie has pulled this book around in the last arc or so because it was just kind of meandering around. Maybe if I do a reread, it's all kind of like solidified, but Thor number 23, really liked it, really liked that story. Venom number 6, this is a book that I like, but I want to like it more than I do. It's written by Ron V and Al Ewing. They got a really interesting direction. You got 2 different Venoms. You got Eddie Brock, you got Dylan Brock. Eddie's stuff is very cosmic, time travel-y, weird time-space stuff. Al Ewing's doing that kind of stuff. We've had mostly work done with Dylan, and that's been by Ron V. So Dylan now has the Venom symbiote. He's still got Sleepers, the cat. He's found his way to this town. He's like staying at this bar of this old biker, and I really liked this issue because it felt like now that we know some of the scale and scope of where Venom's going to be, we're now getting to sit in a more grounded story for a second. We're dealing with the ideas of this town and this biker gang that runs it. And then, of course, Dylan's there. He's dealing with his own stuff. He's on the run. People are turning against symbiotes in the media and in the populace and the governments and all that kind of stuff. So I really like this issue. The artwork by Brian Hitch was decent. It's probably his weakest one yet, but he's been solidly doing these, and I really like the consistency. So Venom 6 turned it back around for me. I really like that book. Then we got Strange Academy issue 17, one of Marvel's best books, continuing to be one of Marvel's best books. This is the penultimate issue. There is one more issue. When it then will go on hiatus, have no fear, it is coming back in the summer for the second semester. But this book has been great. The artwork by Humberto Ramos, every single issue, it's amazing. The coloring by Edgar Delgado is so perfect at working with the the artwork, the line work from Ramos, and it works so well. Scotty Young doing a great job of creating these new characters with connections to the Marvel Universe, making us care about them, taking a story in obvious places and not so obvious ways. Really love this book, and it just keeps ramping up. This was a great issue, really setting up a big slam bang finale for the next issue, for the final issue of the first semester. Let's jump over to Image. We got Little Monsters #1. This is from Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. Really was looking forward to this one. It's about vampires, but they're all kids, and they're hundreds of years old probably, or at least 100. They're super old still, but they're kids, right? They're trapped in the kids' bodies, and they're living on their own. There's like a lost elder, but for like 100 years, they've been on their own in this like post-apocalyptic setting, like playing games, eating rats. Some of them are getting bored. Some of them are getting jaded. Some of them are A-okay with just doing the same thing every single day. The first issue took a long time just to introduce the characters and just the tiniest little bit of their world. Of course, this is probably going to be a book in which they start exploring out further, kind of like what's the furthest place from here. But I really like the setup here, understanding this one little corner, getting to know these characters, and then starting to enlarge in it. We'll see if that's what happens in subsequent issues. The artwork by Dustin Nguyen was amazing. He's not doing his watercolor style type stuff here. It's very black and white with a little bit of nuance of color here and there, but he's using a lot of like screens and things like that to provide the gray tones, and it really works. It works so well. I loved the artwork, so if you're a fan of what they do on books like Descender and Ascender, it's going to look a little bit different, but it's still Dustin Nguyen. It's still some really solid stuff and really great black and white comic book style. Little Monsters #1 could have been a little bit more to the story, but I really dug that first issue. King of Spies, issue #4, the final issue. I was really concerned because this has been my favorite Mark Millar series probably since Huck, right? Like, I love this book. It's like, what if James Bond found out at age 60, he's got a brain tumor, he's going to die in 6 months, and he decides, you know what, I'm actually then going to go rogue as an agent and just kill all the evil people in the world that I know exist and are allowed to exist to keep this status quo thing going. This book has been action-packed, and it's actually also been doing something with an emotional core to it, which is not something I typically think of when I think of the work from Mark Millar. I love this book, a really great ending. It has some deep moments, it's got some fun moments, it's got some hilarious moments, and it's got moments where you're just like, what? That is awesome. Loved it. Matteo Scalera's artwork, some of the best I've seen from this cat. Super dynamic, action-packed. It leaps off the page. It's a very satisfying conclusion, and it's extra size, so have no fear for it just being 4 issues, because this is going to make one nice meaty graphic. Not super meaty, but a decent, like, quarter pounder with cheese. Royale with cheese. Anyway, King of Spies #4. Hella awesome. Then we got Spawn 327. How many times do you think Todd's done this cover? How many times? I was thinking today, does he draw it from scratch every time? Does he have a template? He just makes a couple changes. That was like 20 minutes of work or something? Nah, I know it took way more than 20 minutes probably. Love the cover though, featuring Haunt in the classic Spider-Man pose. Spawn's been a fun book, right? This one is dealing with Spawn teamed up with Haunt. And Al's like so weird in this book right now because he's like, I need Haunt. I need my team. I need to build these people up. I need to have their help. And then at the same time, he's like, I don't care what the hell goes on. I don't care about you at all, bruh. Like, yeah, you may be completely screwed up. You better go figure that out. But I need your help. Like, he doesn't give an F, right? But I like the book. It's fun. Artwork's pretty decent. It gets a bit inconsistent here and there. That's kind of happened over the last couple issues. But the story's kind of still there. King Spawn, to me, though, is still the one above all the rest. But Spawn's been a fun book and continues to be so. Ant #3. I have really liked this Ant series from Eric Larson. I have never read the original Ant stuff. In this one, I know there's a lot of callbacks to earlier Ant stuff, and apparently Eric Larson, because I read the back matter here, is trying to recontextualize certain things from the earlier Ant series, but do it in a way that is still fresh and accessible for new readers. And I'm still enjoying the book. His art style ain't what it used to be. It has simplified. It's a different approach that he's taking with Ant, with a thinner line. that I rather like. This was probably the most clunky issue yet, but I still enjoyed it. And it was interesting to see him explain and show some of the original artwork that he is trying to recontextualize in an interesting way. I'm getting a bit confused about the story, though, but still liking some of the energy of this artwork. But this one was not my favorite one so far. But Ant number 3 is out this week. Then we got Sweet Paprika's here with issue number 8. Mirka and Dolfo, loving this story. I think it's great. It's sexy. It's got a cute charm to it. It's endearing. It's telling a very intimate story about love and trust and repression. And it's doing it in a really fun, comic booky kind of way that's just raunchy enough to not be too crude, but just crude enough, if that makes sense. I love it. I think it's a fun book. Silly artwork, but it works for the story. The dialogue flows right through. I enjoy it. Sweet Paprika number 8. That's of 12 right there. New Masters issue number 2. I really liked issue number 1. Thought it was a very imaginative world. Liked the artwork, all that stuff. It made the pick of the week that week. This week it's got a little bit more competition. It's a decent follow-up to issue number 1, but it didn't instantly transport me back into the wonder of this world. It built it out just a little bit, but it did a little bit more character work, which I did appreciate. So I'm still liking the book. It's just maybe the momentum is just a bit slow moving through issue 2, but I still like it. New Masters number 2 out this week. From Aftershock, we got 2 We Live books. We Live, Age of the Palladions, black and white. So yeah, if you want to read We Live, you gotta buy both of these. They tell like one complete story. I read the white one first, and then when I was reading the black one, it's like, oh, I should have read the the black one first. Then when I got to the end of it, it's like, actually, it doesn't matter. You can read them in any order. They do kind of overlap, but they're telling different stories. So We Live was a cool book. I'm one of the people that didn't really like the ending when it went all superhero-y and it completely changed what the story was. So I know a lot of people like that, though, and they were really looking forward to this. I think you'll still like it. The artwork wasn't quite as mesmerizing to me in this one as it was in the previous series, but, you know, I wasn't really liking the twist that it went to at the end, so they didn't really do too much for me, especially to have all of this content to reintroduce the concept. I think it did it fine, but it just didn't quite have the hook that I was really wanting as someone who enjoyed the first series, but wasn't sold on that end, on the switch in direction. And I don't know, man, this one didn't quite do it for me, so I don't know. But We Live going forward, I think is just going to be, there's no more like 2 issues at a time or something like that. So anyway, let's jump over to DC. And from DC, we have Trial of the Amazons, issue number 1 of 2, but it's a big crossover that's going through a Wonder Girl 2-issue series and the last issue of Nubia and a few issues of Wonder Woman, right? But this is Trial of the Amazons number 1. So I have not been reading the Wonder Woman books. I kind of dropped out of them like a few months ago. So I'm testing it. If this is a good number 1, it should get me into the story, excited, caught up, and throw me into a big moment to like make me want to read the rest of them, right? It doesn't really do that. So first of all, it does by the end of it get me kind of interested in this story. Basically, you got 3 different tribes of Amazons. 2 of them have been away from the main tribe for years. One of them has just recently been discovered. That's the one Yara Flor is a part of. They need to find a champion to protect this like portal to like some other dimension or something. So they're having another contest, much like they did when Diana first became the ambassador to Man's World. So that's an interesting setup for a concept, right? Then there's a moment at the end that should be a big deal. The problem is this book doesn't ever feel exciting, right? The concept is interesting. I like that idea. It almost intrigued me to read Nubia, because I read this on a Sunday, and I grabbed Nubia, which is part 2 of this story, which also comes out this week, and I flipped through it, and I was like, I think I just need to flip through. I just need to flip through. Anyway, I like the concept, but the execution just wasn't there. Like I said, wasn't exciting. It could have started with a big action thing, could have got me intrigued a little bit more, but instead it was just a lot of talking, kind of plodded along. So interesting concept, really weak execution, so I think that was a missed opportunity. Naomi, Season 2, Issue number 1. Really liked Season 1 of Naomi. This is from Brian Michael Bendis, David F. Walker, and Jamal Campbell. Really, really like the artwork still. Artwork looks beautiful, if a bit stiff at times now. I don't know. It doesn't quite have some of the energy I say that, then I open it to that page. Never mind. It does still have some of that energy. The story, though, doesn't quite, I don't know, it's interesting enough, but it didn't quite nail me like the first issue of Naomi, right? So right now, Naomi has been in the Justice League, so they recap that real quick, and then they're basically exploring a mystery of her adoptive father and this Thangarian warrior. So it's kind of a slow start, and for a book that's been gone for so long, that's only going to be a 6-issue series, feels like it didn't quite get into the heart of the story enough, but at the same time, still liking the art, still liking this character, so it's intriguing enough for me to continue to explore it. Superman, Son of Kal-El, issue number 9. This is the best issue of Superman, Son of Kal-El yet. It's got artwork by Bruno Redondo, who is the artist of Nightwing, so this is the conclusion of the 2-part crossover with Nightwing, and I really like it. I really like this Jonathan Kent and his relationship with Dick Grayson. It's a really interesting dynamic that's never been done with a super to a bat, right? And I kind of like that. I really like the vibe here. I'm starting to feel like Jonathan's questioning himself more, and that's something that I like a little bit more. So I like the book. I thought it was cool. If you like Nightwing, you'll like it. If you've been reading this book, I think you'll enjoy this one, because I honestly think this was the best issue of Superman, Son of Kal-El yet. So, pretty cool. Glad it at least stuck through to that point. Joker, number 13 is here. The penultimate issue, I believe. I think there's only one more left. I did not like the big reveal in the last issue, because I thought it was way too obvious. Here, just expectations be damned. Let's tell a good story, okay? And that's what James Tynion's doing a little bit. I like this whole idea of the Samson family. I basically like the premise of the setup of this. I was just disappointed in a very obvious mystery that got left dangling way too long and then resolved like that. Anyway, Joker 13, though, it was cool. The story, though, it never quite lived up to its promise to me that was made and stated in that first arc. I thought the first arc was amazing, and ever since then, it's been doing a decent job, but I don't know. It's good, but it's not like as awesome as it felt in the early days. Detective Comics 1056. I don't know what else there is to say. I don't like the Arkham Tower story. I continue to not like the Arkham Tower story. I think this was the most whack issue of it yet. I am still enjoying the backup story by Blanco and Rosenberg. So I'm reading it for that. I am still... So this fake Harley Quinn, they explain the mystery of who is this fake Harley Quinn. It is the dumbest thing. We're just going to move on. From IDW, we got the Killlock, the Artisan Wraith. Now, if you don't remember, the Killlock was a 6-issue series from IDW from Livio Ramondelli. I loved that book. It was a book I gave up too early on, and Bob and Bueller and Dylan, I think, on one of our monthly reviews, really got me sold back on it, and then I read through it and stuck with it, and I loved that book. It's about this robot society. There's different classes of robots. They all have different places in their robot society. And if you're convicted of something, they don't, like, kill you or decommission you. They put a kill lock on you, and you are now connected to 3 other robot criminals, and if one of you dies, you all die. Right? So the whole kill lock story where these 4 robots who didn't necessarily like each other have to kind of work together, and the way it ended, and I don't want to spoil Kill Lock for you because it's really cool, but the way it ends goes right into this, like 100%. And let's just say the result of the initial miniseries, there are 2 new robots who are hunting that down. And that is awesome. Great artwork. Didn't quite feel artistically the same as the first volume, but it's been like over a year, I guess, since I've read it, or just shy of a year. But I love this book. It was really cool. It has heart. It's got interesting concepts and ideas and wonderful artwork, and the way the story is told and paced is just majestic. Even if you never read that first Kill Lock, I think you could just read this one, but I would highly encourage you to read the Kill Lock, because that book was amazing. Then we get Human Remains, issue number 6, Peter Milligan, Sally Cantorino. I'm really liking this book again. It took for a couple issues, I feel like my interest took a dive. In this one, it ramped my interest back up because we get some new interesting concepts. There may be a way to not necessarily defeat these monsters and these entities, but a way to withstand them. I think that was an interesting concept developed by Peter Milligan here. I am still liking the artwork. I feel like we're getting deep into some of the character work now. And I'm liking where it's going, this exploration of this world in which if you show an expressive emotion, hate, love, anger, whatever it is, these monsters show up out of nowhere and just rip you to pieces, you know? But pretty cool. Pretty cool, actually. Human Remains number 6. I really am liking that, though. Then we got Betty Page, The Alien Agenda, issue number 1 from Dynamite Comics. This is written by Anna Mia. Mia, friend of the show, very popular cosplayer. She's got a Betty Page one-shot with Bigfoot that they crowdfunded. I haven't gotten my copy of that yet, so this is the first I've read from Mia, and I'm really impressed with Mia's script writing techniques and her ability there. The dialogue was really spot on. My only thing was I would have had a little bit more action in this issue because Betty Page is kind of set around this like fun, old school horror adventure, paranormal adventure type thing. So the tie-in to Roswell and the alien mystery and Betty forming a team and having to investigate it, that's all cool. I could have just, instead of just having most of this issue being figuring out what to do next, actually you need a little bit more action. Aside from that, though, I was very impressed with the dialogue and the pace and the flow. The artwork was decent, too. But Betty Page, The Alien Agenda, from friend of the show, Anna Mia. Then we got Draculina, issue number 2, from Christopher Priest. I read issue 1, not familiar with this character. I've just started reading the Christopher Priest Vampirella stuff. I'm digging that. So I want to get into this one. Issue 1, I thought was an interesting premise. So Draculina, when she like turns into a little girl when she gets hurt or falls asleep. When she falls asleep, she turns into a little girl, something like that. And then the girl lights a candle and Draculina comes in, but they're both actively trying to kill and sabotage each other. So that's a really interesting thing. Priest does interesting things with humor and structure in the script that he's kind of become known for, and I like that. And I found myself getting more invested into the story, into the structure of it, and those characters in issue number 2. So I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot, actually. Evil Ernie, issue number 4. This is probably the weakest issue so far. It's the penultimate issue of this series. Scott Lobdell kind of just lets some of the excitement fall a little bit. The artwork doesn't feel as clean in this one. Not that the artwork ever felt clean. It's an Evil Ernie book. It should be a little bit raw. It should have a rough, gritty texture to it, right? And it does, but it just, something about it's a little off, a little wonky, and the story kind of slows up a little bit, like we needed to stretch it out to 5 or something like that. So I just think it was paced a little weird. So this one was, to me, not my favorite issue of Evil Ernie, but I am still liking it, and it's got me really excited. I want to go and read some old school Evil Ernie stuff. Elvira meets Vincent Price, issue number 5. This is the final issue. And they basically wrapped up the whole story in the last issue. So I was like, what the hell are they going to do? And what they do is they give us, I love it because they give us a little bit more time with Vincent Price before he inevitably has to go. So Elvira's been hanging out with the ghost of Vincent Price from a movie, and they also use this as not just a really great resolution and a coda to this series, but it's an excellent setup to the next series, Elvira in Horrorland, in which she's going to be dimension hopping basically into some of our most favorite and iconic horror movies, starting with Psycho. So this directly tail ends into that. I've had a lot of fun with this Elvira series. It's got that camp, it's got that humor, but it's got that reverence for classic horror that Elvira's become known for, and they translate it very well in the comic book. So I really, really like that book, and I've now been trying to eagerly collect up all the old Elvira stuff that Dynamite has published, and I know that they got a paperback collections coming up of her 90s series, so excited for that. From AWA, we have Hit Me, number 1. It's the new one for Krista Faust, Priscilla Petrates. This one was okay. It was a little bit odd, to be honest with you. It's about somebody who people pay her to punch her or to hurt her, to slap her, to do other kind of things, right? So there is like a sexual connotation to it, but it's not like that. There's this whole thing explaining the whole world of it that Faust does at the end, and I found that very intriguing because it's not something I'm really familiar with. But it's the story of a woman who is a sex worker, I guess, and people pay her to like spank her, hit her, things like that. She gets off on pain. So that's what this book is about. She's one of those, but the story then gets involved with her and this dude who's like in love with her, and he's like her bodyguard or something. And and some of that was a bit cheesy, but they wind up getting in a situation well above their head because of some crazy shit that happens with the client. But Hit Me number 1 was interesting. It was interesting. Then we got Primos issue number 2. Primos issue number 1 I thought was a pretty decent setup. In issue number 2, they're continuing to build out this world, build it into these concepts, show these ancient Mayans who have time traveled to our day, and one of them now is like trying to like wreck shit because the world didn't go the way he wanted it to or something like that. And I don't know, I still like it. I like the artwork, but this one, for a 4-issue series, I really feel like it really slowed up here in the second issue. So it was still decent, but it didn't quite engage me or compel me like the first issue did. Then we got Mighty Morphin. So I don't know if Ryan Parrott's done for good now, but we do got new writer Matt Groom on the book, and this is a story that picks up after the Eltarian War. That big thing has just wrapped up. Now we got Groom in here, and he's telling a story of they have to replace the command center, right? And so there's this, it's kind of a stretch, it's kind of a weird bit, but they have to go find another command center on another planet and transport it to Earth to be their command center instead of just building something. I just feel like they could just build something, but they got this whole conceit where they have to go to another planet. But that being said, this is a really cool issue. I still like the character work. I like the artwork in here. It was a different artist, Hidalgo. I liked it. A good focus on Rocky. We don't get a lot of that, so I think Rocky slept on, to be honest with you. So I liked it, Mighty Morphin 17, but like, they can't just build a command center. They got it. And there's this whole weird bit where they're like, oh, it's just typical Eltarian command center mold A. Like, they're all the same. We just need to get one and transport it. I'm like, could you? Billy built a flying car. Anyway, then we got Apache Delivery Service, issue number 3. Yes, issue number 3. I'm liking this book. It's a Vietnam-era story. It's about this soldier in the Vietnam War, and he comes across this dude, and he's like on a treasure hunt. And he's agreed to go on a treasure hunt with this guy because this dude is known as being like a good manhunter. He can track people down, he can find things, and so this dude teams up with him, and then he gets in over his head in this issue. But I really like this raw, rough style of artwork. I like this very sparse dialogue. It flows right through, but I want to linger on the pages. I find it very fascinating. So Apache Delivery Service number 3, I rather enjoyed. Then we have the Sumerian Hour of the Dragon, issue number 1 of 2, I believe. These are these unofficial Conan comic books. They're uncensored, so they got violence, they got nudity, they got all that stuff. They got everything that Marvel kind of sanitizes out of their Conan comics sometimes. The artwork is amazing. Valentine Secker, the artwork in this book is amazing. The coloring is super cool. The figure work is amazing. It's fascinating. It's beautiful. Story was interesting enough. One of my favorite things about these is they reprint the original stories in the back. So if you have a full collection here, I guess by the end of it, you'll have a full collection of all the Robert E. Howard Conan stories. So that's pretty cool. Really like that. Those are cool. European flair. I think they're European comics. Anyway, that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. We appreciate the support. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at patreon.com/PCP if you want to help support the channel. We really do appreciate all the support. It's just watching these videos, sharing them, being here, participating. We really do appreciate it. Drop a comment below. Let us know what you're reading, what you're digging. I already said that. I'm kind of lost. What am I going to do? This is the time of the video where you go, Robbie. Thanks for rocking with us. I've been rocking Robbie Billups. Station. Pop, pop, boom. Keep on reading.